Smith didn't give a straight answer, but suggested that Eats connect to the Mech neural network so they could team up to find a way to survive. In the end, Eats agreed to the neural connection to survive. But before proceeding, he made one super demand. Smith's snooping rights were only for this mission, and Eats wouldn't let Smith peek at his memories. Meanwhile, Casca crawled out of the pit like a madman and quickly reported Eats' situation. As the sole survivor of the squad, Eats was facing hell on Earth. Suddenly, Smith declared the neural link failed. At that point, Eats had no choice but to let sync the neural link. Eats had to hold back emotions and let Smith scan parts of his memories about Haran. He and Haran shared the same mommy, and little Eats had trusted Haran completely. After opening up, Smith finally managed to connect with him successfully. Now they were 152 meters underground, and they could burst up using all their might. But given Haran's bad guy vibe, his minions would definitely be waiting at the cave entrance. Suddenly, Eats remembered Smith mentioning all the underground tunnels, so he decided to go for a stealth mission. The mech he controlled headed for the nearest hole, but it only had enough juice to last for 14 hours of life. There 37 come from the surrender pod, dodging Haran's super-powered minions. Facing challenges, Eats launched an emergency plan and activated all weapons. He stepped out of the cave, exposing his location, and Casca quickly locked onto him. Smith's motion sensor went ping right towards Casca's direction. No wonder they had laid out sensors along the way. Eats ordered the landmines to blow, and Zarwin and Sue charged at the mech. However, Smith couldn't pinpoint Casca's location, but Eats wasn't willing to give up. He immediately told Smith to turn on the headlights and advance, and sure enough, he spotted Casca's. Smith, sharing screen with Eats, located Haran's space via triangle after demodulating frequency. Eats ordered a search for Haran's location, planning to reach the escape pod with long bombers and geotags. After bombing Haran, they'd leave, but Smith cancelled the order for Eats' safety, which was a complete bummer for him. He decided to exit the mech, don an oxygen mask, and fight Haran alone, but Smith stopped him by Neuralink. This move reminded him of a painful past when Haran had once controlled Eats via neural connection, leading him to do something he couldn't undo. Later, after hearing Eats' plea, Smith finally stopped controlling him. Eats realized he'd have to talk things out, so he calmed down and laid out the pros and cons for Smith. In the end, Smith chose to compromise, taking Eats over Haran's base. The nearby base thrived like a modern town. Haran was busy for 28 years. Smith planted the bomb and left. Suddenly, Eats found Haran stole the ship, the Debo. He decided to get closer to see Haran's plan. He saw a super awesome warhead loaded onto the ship by robots, felt uneasy, and didn't want to stay a second. Haran's army noticed Eats and was quickly gathering to trap him. As Eats controlled the mesh to escape, Smith delivered terrible news. The mech file had been hacked. Soon, Smith went silent, and the mech turned into a cage trapping Eats. The general on the ground received Eats' message and sensed something was off since the other soldiers weren't responding. Clearly, the Debo had gone rogue. If they continued the chase, the warhead would take out half the Earth. If Haran got it, Earth would be down to a half. So the general ordered all troops to gather and prepare to launch the emergency procedures. Everyone had to keep an eye on Eats and the other soldiers' communications. At that moment, Eats was brought before Haran, who had no ill will but instead was talking about love and longing. I fell in love with Mommy, fell in love with you, still love you. I deeply feel I'll never understand how complicated this is. If you love me, don't jump on that ship. I've spent years trying to find another solution. But since humanity's in such a mess, other groups and their families won't last long on Earth. They self-destructed before, and I can't let that happen again. Mommy wanted to create a better future. I believe she was working for humanity's protection. So, it'll detain most of humanity, and then from their blood, survivors will gain new rights and peaceful coexistence in this world. The AI we bring can interconnect. It's literally the best choice you'll ever see in your life. Maybe it's time for you to take this seriously. I know you're smart. I've seen the wisdom in your heart, and surely you can see we can't be forced into persecution. You say you've been waiting for me, and yes, it was you who made the capture device for Casca. You knew I would ask him for answers. You wished him to lead us here, and then you hoped he could bring you here as well. Plus, there's the front top of the arm plate. And then You wanted me. And she came. At that moment, Eats realized he had already walked into Haran's trap, regretting it deeply. Haran had set up a defense system for Earth. The system was solid, and the Alliance battleships had to know the correct passcode. As a senior intelligence officer, Eats must have passcodes. Once handed over, Haran's ship can access Earth's defense system. Haran would launch probes to ignite the atmosphere and take out everyone on Earth. Haran needed to extract 2 sets of codes. She had already obtained 1 set from Eat, and now she deliberately extracted another set from Eats. Haran, with her minions, prepared to implement the plan to destroy Earth, leaving Eats one last breath. Soon after, Eats would die due to oxygen deprivation. After Haran left, they shared some good. Lee gave Eats his connection device, and just as Lee said, Smith awakened again. At this point, Eats was tense and unwilling to trust, so he and Smith weren't fully in sync.